Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 15 of the Moody Gooners podcast. Hope you're all well. Hope you're still basking in the glory of the result on Sunday. As ever, joined with Jason, my partner in crime. How are you, sir?
Very well, sir. Very well. Yeah, sporting the old Puma kit today. I love this kit.
Yeah. I assume it's not the players' version. Otherwise, we'll have to get you cut out of that one.
No. This is the slightly more forgiving fans version.
Nice. But all good and well with you?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, basking in the glory of what was, well, they always are, aren't they? They're just full of drama, the games between us and United.
They certainly are.
It was really good. Fantastic. But yeah, I'm all good.
Good. Okay, just so before we start, we're going to do our usual bit of housekeeping. So, Moody Gooners is an Arsenal podcast with a difference. The difference being that we basically looking to fuse our love for all things the Arsenal with mental health. So at the end of each podcast, we do what we call a bold prediction. And for those that we get wrong, which to be honest is every single week each at the moment, we donate to Mind, our mental health charity of choice. So stay tuned for that at the end. But today we're going to go through the usual drill. So cover off what was a really exciting finish to the game on Sunday against Man United. Good to get one over those chumps once again, and then basically just see how we feel about the what kind of shape we are going into now. What's going to be the worst timed international break ever that comes just as everyone's kind of getting a little bit of momentum coming, but a little bit of a break now to kind of have a reset, transfer window close, so good chance to sort of take stock really. So without further ado, let's jump into it. I mean, Jason, talk to me about your thoughts about. Obviously, we had the news before the game, rumours swirling around. It was actually the Ghanaian FA that had kind of announced that Thomas Partey was not joining up with the international side due to a muscular injury, and then it's since transpired that he couldn't make it. So I think a lot of Arsenal fans then sort of thought possibly, the lineup sort of picked itself with Ben White moving back out to right back. But what was your sort of take on how we lined up to begin with?
Well, I mean, honestly, in some ways, it's a bit of a blessing in disguise, because I think I would probably say all Arsenal fans wanted us to flick back to switch back to what we knew, which was the tried and tested back four from last season, really. And yes, it's a shame that Partey wasn't involved, but now that we've got the general, Declan sitting there. I think it was. I felt a lot. I felt confident. Once I saw the lineup, I was like, "I thank God for that." Right? Okay. Now we just need to, put them to the sword, really. But I mean, just coming back to part, what's the prognosis? I've not really heard. I mean, what is it? What is it? A groin strain or something, or what's the deal?
I think it's like a thigh injury. They're saying that he's going to be out for 6 weeks. I think there's another international break in October, and I think they're hoping to have him back after them. But to be honest with you, I've seen this story before, and even if he does come back in that time frame, it's still just yet another muscular injury to add to the.
Doesn't bode well, does it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, everything's great in hindsight, but there's still that kind of element of. Yeah, what happens if Rice gets an injury? We're going to have El Neni in the middle with Jorginho. I mean, I feel we suddenly, even though we obviously signed him, really it's a like for like with Xhaka, isn't it? Like getting one in, one out, and now it feels again like we're just one injury away in a couple of positions from a bit of a crisis. But that's the prognosis. I mean, we've got obviously Everton, Tottenham, PSV. I think he probably might miss the Man City game in the league at home, but yeah, hoping that 6 weeks is realistic, and it doesn't, because we've seen these things before where they give you a time frame. And I remember when Saliba got injured, there were a few rumours of we'll be back in a couple of weeks, and then they end up missing the season. So let's just hold tight there. Any other sort of thoughts on the selection, really? I mean, we obviously saw Jesus come off the bench against Fulham and do pretty well, but he stuck with Nketiah through the middle with Jesus on the bench.
Yeah,
thoughts around that.
I think they're being careful. I mean, especially with Jesus is the star sort of centre forward that we've got, and on his day he'll be picked in front of Eddie Nketiah. We all know that, and I think given the track record of Jesus, where he's had a couple of sort of, I'd say mid-ish sort of term injuries that have kept him out for a sustained period, I think we're just being careful with it and sort of bringing him back slowly, giving him these little 20-minute, half-an-hour cameos, and I think it's the right thing to do. You don't want to rush it. I mean, the one thing that I did see today was that he's now been called back up to the Brazil squad again. I mean, surely Richarlison can do a job for them. They don't need Gabriel Jesus.
Yeah.
So I hope he doesn't play too much. But they've got some. I also read that like Brazil are going to do some high altitude games in like La Paz and stuff like this. It's a bit mental. I don't want Jesus involved in all this. He's only just come back. You're just going to wrap him up and like.
I know. And the thing with Brazilian players, I mean, the narrative is always that they value playing for their club probably more than a lot of other nationalities of players. So, he's not going to turn down the opportunity to lead the line. And let's be honest, the way Richarlison's playing.
But he can't hit a barn door, can he? Honestly, he's unbelievable, that guy. So yeah, I want us to take it easy with Gabriel Jesus. I'm quite happy that there's like a, from that perspective for him, I think it's good that there's a break now in play because he can build on his fitness. If he does go away, which obviously he is now, I don't want him to be playing a lot, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. But yeah, the rest of the lineup, apart from one person, which my patience is, I think is run out now. I had my doubts about Kai Havertz in the summer, and he hasn't done enough to warrant a starting berth in my view. I just think that we've put this massive anvil around our neck now that we're constantly having to pick him, given the money that we've paid for him. And yet again, the game against United was another example of how he's just ineffective. We'll get into it more, I guess, as we go along. But there are better options in my view on the bench. You've got Fab. If we're going to play with this like two number 8s, if you like, or two number 10s, however you want to call it, with Odegaard and another sort of attacking player, Vieira, the cameo appearances that Vieira's had in the last couple of games, he's been outstanding when he's come on. And why aren't we giving Emile Smith-Rowe a run? Just because we paid 65 million for Kai Havertz, he doesn't deserve his place in the starting lineup at the moment. He doesn't. So
no, I'm kind of a bit. I feel like I'm quite measured about it in the sense that as long as he did obviously give the ball away that led to their goal, but ultimately that it didn't cost us his performance. And I think going from playing false 9 at Chelsea to being a number 8 midfield, that's quite a big ask for any player. So I don't want Arteta to fall on his sword with this too early. I want him to try and push through. I think it would actually make Arteta look bad if he suddenly just pivoted straight away from him. I don't think he deserves a run in the team, but I like the idea of the next few games. Let's just keep it in there. Let's see if things can turn around. Because let's be honest, like, who saw Fabio Vieira being this good? At the end of last season, we were saying how awful he was and one of the worst signings in the Arteta era, and he's turned it around. So I kind of don't want. I want Arteta to persist with it to a point, to a point where he can say, "Look, I've given this a proper go." I still feel that 4 games in probably isn't a proper go, and I think it's one thing asking a player that plays on the left wing to go and play on the right wing, but you're asking him to play in a midfield role. It's a massive step change, and I do think he's doing some good defensive work. I don't think the crowd's necessarily helping him as well. And I think that
people like me that doubt him already, I guess.
Because you've got to remember, if you're a player and you're getting howled at by the fans, you're just going to start playing the safe passes. You're not going to take any. You're not going to let your personality. So all he's really doing is working hard off the ball, and closing down and mopping up some easy stuff and just laying the ball off simple. He's not really. It's a bit more about risk taking in the final third when you're an attacking player, and I don't think he's doing that at the moment. He's probably just feeling a bit lacking in confidence.
I don't think he's. I mean, I get the impression that during the game, this may come across as very harsh, and maybe it is, but I do think that there are times in the game that he's just not switched on, he's not alert, and he's not on the same wavelength as the other players. Now, granted, we're 4 games in, and he's joined the club in the summer, and it takes a bit of time to build up this chemistry. You know, there was that golden opportunity. I mean, we're going into it now, into the game.
Yeah.
You know, the ball fell to him, and he completely skied his chance, and it ended up like being an assist almost for Eddie Nketiah. You know, early on in the game, completely skewed it and sliced it, and the goal was there from like 6 yards out. And you and I, honestly, we would have buried that. And I just don't think he's completely alert all the time. And maybe you know, that you mentioned Fabio Vieira, and yes, you know, this was the same player, you know, that's made a great couple of cameos now, but last year he was really ineffective. But what Arteta did was he dropped him. And I think that, you know, Havertz is in a slightly, I would expect more from Havertz, because Havertz has been playing in the Premier League. You know, Fabio Vieira was playing in Portugal, you know, for Porto. So there's a difference in intensity and quality between the 2 leagues. So I would expect more from him, and I would expect that he would settle down a lot quicker than, say, Vieira. But, you know, again, it's early days. So, yeah.
We'll get into it. We'll get into that. We'll cover all of that stuff off. I mean, what was your sort of thoughts around the first half itself? I mean, I found it one of the most bizarre. Like, when you think about the blood and thunder games between the two sides back in the noughties, late 90s, you know, early to mid noughties, it was like the most flat game I've ever seen. I mean, Man United kind of just sat off completely. I think they had pretty much their touch map was passes inside their own half, trying to draw us on. And I found myself watching the game getting a bit angry. Like, go on, Eddie, go and close Onana down. Like, we weren't pressing and closing, but then maybe Man United wanted us to do that so they could then play over the top of us. So a bit of me was thinking it felt like a bit of a sort of a Mexican standoff almost, where Man United was sort of keeping the ball at the back slowly, almost trying to tease us on, but then they, you know, Onana wasn't even trying anything racy with his passing. All he was doing was knocking the ball out into, you know, 20 meters along the ground into midfield or to his defenders. So it's a very bizarre sort of half, really. And as a result, you know, we had, you know, Man United scoring off their only real foray into our half. We had loads of the ball, didn't create anything, and I'd never seen like the first half between these teams so low on tempo, but also low on goal mouth. Everything sort of centered on those sort of 2 or 3 minutes when both goals happened in the first half, and that was was a lot, really. It was like cat and mouse, really.
A couple of chances. I mean, the Havertz chance where he completely skewed it. You know, there was nice build up from Martinelli, which, you know, I thought he had a great game, Martinelli. But the game, the first half, it seemed a bit scrappy, but a bit sort of, we were in control, and, you know, as you'd sort of expect, being the home team. I think the game followed a little bit, you know, in the same vein as what happened last year. You know, we were controlling the game, and then we got caught out by a Rashford goal. You know, ball given away, and then all of a sudden they break on us, which was their game plan, which was their setup, and then we're sort of chasing it. But credit to us, you know, we got the goal back straight away. But I think looking at the two teams, it was very much. It was, you could tell. It was a picture of where the teams are right now. Man United they don't have an identity. They have no, you know, they've got no sort of quality, I feel, up front, out wide, apart from Rashford. Their midfield, I think Casemiro is reaching the point where he's going to start to decline. You know, they've got Eriksen playing alongside him. I know they wanted Amrabat in before then, but so I just think in United, they've got massive injuries at the back. I think that's all you could sort of expect from Man United. Whereas for us, the way that we played, or the way we set out the stall for the first half, is very much exactly what we've been doing for the last 3 games. It feels like we're trying to force it a bit, instead of just being a bit more loose, with a bit more intensity and just allowing it to flow a bit more. We're trying to force it, I feel. But yeah, we controlled the game, and then I mean the goals. I mean, I've got a question for you. Could Ramsdale have done more for the Rashford goal? He got fingertips to it, but I think there's an argument to be said that he could have shifted over a bit more, given that he had the two defenders in front of him a bit more. What do you think about his positioning?
I must admit,
critical.
I must admit, I noticed the positioning he took when Fulham opened the scoring in the previous game much more. I must admit, that didn't really jump out to me, if I'm being honest. But upon watching the replay, I think Rashford hits it with such power that it's hard to, and he gets it in just off the post as well. I know the touch from Ramsdale. So I was actually more annoyed at how we were backing off. I mean, Rashford's a lethal player. He must be terrifying to come up against. But Ben White was sort of backing off into the box pretty much, and then Saliba came across. But but neither defender. We had two players on him, and it just felt. I was more annoyed that Rashford was able just to shift the ball onto his right and then just power it across the goalie. If I was Ramsdale, I'd be going, "Come on, guys, there's two of you there. You're close enough to him." And I know you don't want to give a penalty away. And defenders these days, they don't go to ground like they used to. You don't want them to be rash and silly, but I'd much rather give a penalty away than just to let him just casually cut in on his right hand side. But once he did cut in, I think it was a fabulous finish. And Rashford, he seems to score against us quite a bit, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I expected more from Ben White. I don't know if Ben White was a bit ring rusty, having played at
centre back,
centre half, and maybe his positioning was wrong. But I felt that one of them could have actually engaged Rashford a little bit higher up the pitch. It was a good ball by Eriksen. Obviously, Havertz gave the ball away. My heart sank for him. I must be honest. Oh God, of all the players to give it away,
no,
and it was just a straight ball into the channel by Eriksen. It was nothing. It's quite worrying, really, how people can either run through our midfield or play through us like that. It's so like Man United had literally not even. I don't even think they'd even had a touch inside our box until that goal. And to me, it felt classic Man United. They do nothing, and then suddenly, bang, up they pop, and they find a way.
You raise a good point there about the sort of running through the midfield. Can you see the difference between this season in what we're doing, in trying to be more attack minded, whereas last season, I know that Granit Xhaka was he wasn't specifically sat in the midfield, he was driving on, but I thought the midfield trio last season looked a bit more solid than what we've got right now.
Yeah.
So I feel that there would have been more of an opportunity last season for us to have stopped this attack from happening, whereas this season it just, as you say, it just seems so open. And if you get as good as Declan Rice is, you're isolating that midfielder, and it's going to be very difficult. So there are a lot of question marks over the lineup in the midfield, I think, that need to be sort of ironed out over the coming months, if you like.
Yeah, and I think Rice did play really, really well, but
he was outstanding. I thought. But
I think he needs someone alongside him, a bit of physicality, someone who's prepared to take like a tactical foul, like to get a booking or something. We hated Xhaka getting booked, but by the end of his time at Arsenal, he sort of worked out when was the appropriate time to maybe take a yellow card, and manage the game a bit more. I think we're a little bit naive in terms of our game management. We're trying to just get on the ball, but actually sometimes it's important. And I think as well, because we weren't really pressing and harrying them as well. I like to think maybe Jesus, if he was on and we were playing that, maybe he would have dropped into that pocket and maybe doubled, been able to double up on Eriksen or something. I don't know, but it felt like a day where we were very much sort of sitting off. It felt like more of a tactic by Arteta, really. But yeah, I noticed it in pre-season as well, that our midfield was quite open and teams can sort of carry the ball through us or play over the top of us. And obviously at home, we play such a high line and we like to dominate and keep the ball in the opposition half. That I think we've always got to be switched on to that, really. But the problem is now we don't really have, we don't really have any options in midfield that can kind of, Timber, for example. I personally think he would have been a pretty good option to have alongside Rice if he was fit.
Well, Jorginho could offer up something. I don't want to dismiss him out of hand, but I do think that if he doesn't have to be that sort of defensive player, and he can be, if you like, a central midfielder instead of sort of being a defensive midfielder, then I think he is a good option to sort of steady the ship, and he can spot. He's got a good pass on him. He can spot a pass a mile off, and I do think that he can dictate the play and control the tempo quite well.
He can, but then I also think if you catch him on the half turn, is he really?
Yeah, I know pace is not his strong.
That's a problem. So maybe you play Rice at the base if that happens. But I am a bit worried with this Partey injury. It better be 6 weeks. Put it that way.
Yeah.
But then obviously, like, the great thing is, was it 38 seconds or something later? We had the ball in the net, and it was a beautiful little passage of play, 1 and 2 touch, players playing in a way that makes you think these guys know exactly the movements, each of them, like perfect kind of symbiosis, and the way they kind of moved into positions, and the 1 and the 2 touch and the little triangles, and then our mate, I mean, Odegaard, in his first season at Arsenal, I think he didn't. Every time he arrived in the box, he'd blaze the ball into row Z, or often he wouldn't even make those runs. But I remember when we played Bournemouth at the start of last season away from home, and Odegaard scored in the first 15 minutes like that. And ever since then, he just seems to be able to kind of time those runs. And to be honest, when I saw the ball roll coming into him, I thought, this is in. I was so confident when it rolled to him. I thought he's gonna just like pull this into the bottom corner. And it was a beautiful finish.
Emphatic, I would say, because he hit that with some power. It was he walloped it. I would look at the replay. I was like, Jesus, he's like, there's no chance that Onana is even getting close to that. It's in the net,
and it's control as well. It's not just it's power with control.
Brilliant. It was a fabulous finish, and the pass. I mean, I've touched on Martinelli earlier, but the pass from Martinelli, the clever. Yeah, you think it's going to be quite easy for an attacking player in that instance to get panicked and just whip the ball in or something. But he was calm, collected, and played it across the floor to the outside. It was wonderful, brilliant play. The interplay, the one-touch passing, brilliant, fabulous goal, and fully deserved as well.
Yeah, and I think it's just important to strike back as soon as you can. The longer it goes on and on and on, and Arsenal are used to coming from behind at home a little bit, and I think once you got that goal, you're then looking for us to finish the first half strong, but it never really sort of happen. It's both sides seem to sink back into the way they were playing before Rashford scored, which was Andre and Onana just having the ball at the back, stroking it around to no one, and Arsenal kind of just letting him have it. It was kind of frustrating, because at home there's always that feeling of you want your team to kind of show the impetus and get on the front foot. But how much? I mean, I guess the question for you would be how much this do you think was by design? Like, do you think Arteta told the team, don't go and press Onana just for the sake of it? Like, pick and choose your moments because we don't want him to play over the top. Or do you think maybe the weather conditions or other kind of factors meant, or maybe the fact Jesus wasn't on there, we weren't doing it?
Well, this is what I think it's deeper than this. I think it's deeper than just this game, because if you think back to the Forest game, we got the goal. We got the goals at Forest, when we played Forest in the opening day, and we didn't close the game out, and then we sat off them, and then we sort of left the door open for them, and then they got that goal. So for me, I think this is a way that we're playing. I don't understand why we do this. We've just scored the goal. Odegaard smashed it in. The crowd are booming. Why not go for the jugular? United are going to be, they're going to be down on their haunches. They're not going to be feeling great about the fact that they've just conceded 30-odd seconds after. Kill them. This is a really, really poor United team. Probably one of the worst that we've ever seen, really, I think, over the last 20 years. I can't think of many worse, to be honest with you. So the opportunity is there to absolutely smash them and send a message. But I don't understand why we do this. We get the goal and we just sort of sit off and allow it to happen. It just, why not just go for it? I don't know whether Arteta's sending something, but I just don't understand why we can't just play with the handbrake off a little bit. We've just got the goal. Use that momentum. It is a bit infuriating, I've got to say.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was watching the game, it was annoying. It definitely. I got annoyed at how it felt like we were just stepping off them a little bit and kind of letting them have the ball. And the problem is when they get the ball, when they have the ball, even if they've got it with their own goalkeeper, they're able to then control the tempo. They're able to then slow the game down, and obviously that works for them when they're away from home at a top side like us. So. But then on the other hand, if we'd gone all guns blazing and tried to press them and then Onana clips one over the top, we'll be sitting here going, bloody hell, we're a bit naive there. We didn't, we weren't really alive to his playing out from the back. So it was a funny game for me to sort of analyse tactically.
I mean, these games are rarely quality games throughout. What tends to happen with these games is that there's flashes of brilliance and high emotion and a lot of drama. They always are with Arsenal United. It was the same last season. The Eddie Nketiah goal right at the end. It was. It's just dramatic. There's no sort of. It's all built on emotion. The whole game. So But I just think we could have asserted ourselves a lot more and really played our game. I think back to games that we had last season where we just sort of, as an example, we went away to Spurs. Do you remember that one where we absolutely pummeled them at White Hart Lane? And we were electrifying in that game. And we were just like, no, we're here to do our job. And we pinged it around and we absolutely hammered them and we didn't let them take a breath.
That last season away from home, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That first half was absolute dominance from start to finish. It was ridiculous.
We could have done the same thing to United because United are crap. I'm sorry, but they are. They got a long way to go before they sort of begin challenging again. So I just think that we could have done the same thing to United, but I don't understand why we're not doing that. And I think a lot of that is down to Arteta trying to maybe try and find new ways of playing. This is something that we did touch on in the last few podcasts of last season, where we were looking for a sort of plan B. So maybe there's something in that. So I want us to see us kill teams off because they're there for the taking. We've got the impetus. Let's just do it. I don't understand why we just sort of stand.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do think Arteta was quite clever tactically to not fall into Man United's trap. But on the other hand, it's about understanding those little subtle shifts in momentum in game, knowing when you need to shut the back door a little bit and play a bit conservatively, knowing when you can smell blood and you can really go in and hammer that home. And you'd like to think, that, we'll be able to kind of maybe go into halftime 2-1 up. But I mean, Man United had 4 passes in our final third in the first half and we had 21. But weirdly, we didn't, other than that Havertz air shot, we didn't really create anything. For me, we're not working the goalkeepers enough when we're playing. We're not trying shots. Every shot we do take tends to kind of go straight to the keeper. There's no real.
Shots, aren't they? I've noticed
we still try and get the ball wide and try and cut the ball back, and it's great. It works really nicely. It does really work. Arsenal do. Case in point with our equaliser, but I do wonder sometimes we just got to go with a little bit of spontaneity and kind of instinct, and sort of go, oh, this feels, we try. It all does feel quite formulaic, and it doesn't obviously look much worse when we're not playing that well. But anyway, second half starts. I think Arsenal definitely came out with a little bit more intent in the second half than how we finished the first. We've had Nketiah having a shot from distance, which Lindelof blocked. But then things started to open up. I think Arsenal were kind of like really trying to. Man United looked basically a lot more of a threat on the counter in the second half. Got that double save where Martial had the shot. And Ramsdale pushes the ball straight out into the danger zone to the guy you don't want it to appear to, Rashford. But obviously gets then blocked by Saliba. But it was an interesting second half. The first half felt like two teams almost like just sussing each other out and sleepwalking through it a little bit. But the second half, it seemed to be Arsenal on the front foot, but Man United carrying a little bit more Right, when that double save happened, I thought, oh my god, this is gonna. That's when I started to feel something's gonna.
The
It's gonna be
anxiety,
quite.
isn't
It's
it?
gonna be a bit more of a roller coaster
Yeah,
this second
yeah.
half. But I guess it's maybe what the game needed to kind of find a winner. Because I think if the first half had been like the second half, and let's say it was finished a draw, it would have been like a little bit flat. And I feel as the home side, maybe the onus was on us. But what was your sort of takes at the start of the second half, and obviously after that, shortly after we had the bizarre penalty thing? But yeah, what was your take?
Definitely, I think we came out with a bit more intent. I think again, it's all a bit too safe. I feel, we're almost a bit too scared to just take a little bit more of a chance. I'm not saying we have to be completely gung ho with it and just go for it, but I think we need to be more sure of ourselves and and back ourselves with the quality that we've got. The evidence is there from last season to support that. So why be, it's almost like a bit of fear there. It feels like, it's just do it. Just take a shot. Why not take a shot from 20, 25 yards? It's what's the worst that can happen? It goes over. Oh, well, there we go. You start again, but just try. Instead of doing the old shoehorn, just try a bit. It just feels a bit, yeah. So yeah, I mean, the penalty appeal. What did you make of this? I mean, this was bizarre. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. I think. I mean, on first viewing, I thought, yes, it's a penalty. Then I saw it from a different angle, and I was like, oh, it's a very soft penalty. Then I looked at it again from the front, and I was like, well, he has caught him, but he has gone down easily. But then if he wasn't a penalty, why did he go down? All these sort of questions and permutations flood through your mind. What did you think?
Okay, my overall opinion is that it was soft and it probably wasn't enough for a penalty. So I actually think the decision that was made via VAR was actually correct. I think in the end, if Anthony had gone through and dived or gone to ground like that, we'd be fuming. I think, because there's a bit of me that thinks, Havertz did sort of leave his leg in a little bit. There was a coming together, but to be honest, there's always going to be contact in the box. And you've got people moving at pace, and Man United were sort of starting to defend quite deep at that stage, and obviously trying to hit us on the counter. So, it was good. It was good enterprising play by Havertz, but for me, not really enough in it for me. I have to say, in real time, when I thought, oh, that could be a penalty, and when it was given, I was very happy. But when I saw the replays, I feel like it was more 6 of one, half a dozen the other. Havertz kind of almost leaving his feeling with his leg. It was almost like a dive, but not like a really nasty, cheaty dive. It was just almost like he was looking for a bit. There was contact, but for me, not enough in it. A little bit soft. I have to say that when it was given, it's not. I'd love to know if there's another example of a penalty being given and then not being given, because often when the referees get sent to go and review it, it's normally
the other way around, isn't it? Like, it hasn't been given on field, but VAR
and then they give it. So when as soon as he went to the screen, I thought, okay, maybe it's not going to be given, but I thought, you never know. We'd never seen it this way around before. But my overriding feeling was that I was more annoyed because I wanted us to win this game real bad, but my overriding feeling was it probably was the right sort of outcome. I just surprised how it sort of all happened. But at the end of the day, VAR is there to kind of, you might say, is it clear and obvious or whatever? But in my opinion, penalties are really key incidents in the game. I almost don't care about the clear and obvious thing with a penalty. I think like we've got to take time over this because it's like pretty much like almost a guaranteed goal if you do get it given. So
yeah, I just wonder though, are we in these sort of instances where they are sort of touch and go, are we not leaving it up to interpretation, the referee's interpretation, or somebody? I just, the problem is I think we're trying to get, with all of these decisions that get made, I think it is at the end of the day being made by a human being, and human beings are prone to mistakes. So in this instance, you could see the arguments for it being given as a penalty and for it not being given as a penalty. But it's just being left to interpretation, isn't it? I feel, on another day that would have been given. They could have gone to the monitor and they could have gone, yeah, no, there is contact, therefore it is a penalty. It's very fine margins, I think, is what I'm trying to say here. I think with this particular one, I haven't seen a penalty quite like this where it could have been given, but you can also understand why it wasn't.
Yeah, for me, I just don't think. I always ask myself the question: if it happened against us, how would I feel? And I think if let's say Havertz was playing for Chelsea again, and that had happened against us, I'd probably feel quite annoyed, to be honest. It would have felt very soft. So, I mean, obviously it was moot in the end, but at the end of the day, the referee's called it. He's then himself gone and looked at it. So I think we've got to sometimes just say that VAR did get it right. It's just a shame that it kind of kills the flow of the game, but I just don't think it was really enough in it for me. I think it was as much of a coming together and as much Havertz kind of trading his foot in there as Casemiro tripping him. I don't think it was like a really, it wasn't like Casemiro was reaching for the ball and didn't get the ball and took him out. For me, it wasn't a penalty. Obviously, I wanted it to be one because he didn't really look at that point that we were really kind of opening the door so much. But yeah, right decision in the end for me anyway, I would say. And then, obviously, the game carries on. We then, see the little rat Martinez sitting down on his backside, and then, suddenly we end up with the situation in the second half with Maguire and Johnny Evans rolling back the years together at the heart of the Man United defence.
Honestly, the state of that club is in is, it warms my heart. It really does. Wow. How have they ended up with Maguire and Johnny Evans at centre back? It's beggars belief. I mean, I read today that Eric Bailly has gone off to Besiktas. Surely he's a better option than Harry Maguire or Johnny Evans. Why are they?
And the reaction of the Arsenal crowd as well when Maguire came trudging on. It was like they were greeting a new signing or something like that. It was just took the roof off the place. But
it's unbelievable.
And to be honest, Maguire playing for England when he doesn't even play for Man United, it's disgraceful. It brings into question for me the whole setup around the selection and meritocracy and things like that. But it was nice to see him, and Martinez is a dirty little bastard, to be honest with you, and he slows the game down, gamesmanship. He's got it all in his locker for that. So I was kind of happy to see him go off, and really not really much to write home about in terms of chance creation for Arsenal. But then we had that really.
It was the Saka one, wasn't it?
The Saka one, yeah, where he found himself coming in from the left-hand side a bit, and we suddenly were able to speed it up with some sort of quick one-touch passing, and suddenly Ben White finds an absolutely beautiful side-footed ball with pace, picks Saka out, and I must admit, it was when that happened, I did just think,
it's got draw written all over it, doesn't it? Yeah, you thought.
Yeah, and when you could say, oh, did he see it? Did he see it with enough time? But he's not really worked the goalkeeper either. But he's got to be burying that in the corner, near post or far post.
I know he's got a couple of goals this season, but do you think Saka looks a bit jaded? Do you think he looks a little bit tired? I'm seeing that his influence. I may be wrong, but I'm just seeing that his influence isn't as big on games as it was last season.
Yeah, probably a little bit of that, but he has a couple of goals in the bag, obviously Forest, and then the penalty against Palace, and he did set up Declan Rice on the weekend as well. So in terms of goal involvements, I don't think he's looking
his numbers
that bad. Yeah, his numbers are good, but I think I agree with you that when you look at the body of work in the full 90 minutes of a game, I think I did notice quite a few times when he picked up the ball, because they had Diego Dalot at left back, like they'd pull one of their midfielders out to kind of go and close Saka down as well, which is probably actually why Martinelli had a brighter game. He didn't really. It was always 1-on-1 whenever he had the ball, but then Saka it was 2-on-1. when he got the ball. But then I also think a lot of our players have not really played well compared to last season, if you
True.
ask me.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of me that thinks, yes, that's probably true of Saka, but I think it's probably more symptomatic. His numbers are not that bad, and I think it's more symptomatic of the team, in my view. I mean, I'd still much rather have a Saka who's putting numbers in our starting lineup versus, Reece Nelson or Jesus going out there, week to week. I wouldn't mind actually maybe in the League Cup seeing Fabio Vieira out in that position. That's one player that I think I want, because he's got a bit of trickery, he's got a bit of pace.
He may be in the starting 11 before long, mate, in the league.
Yeah, but he doesn't really have a right foot like Saka to be able to cross. But I do wonder if he's got a bit of trickery, pace, and direct kind of dribbling. Maybe he might be.
Sure.
Saw a bit of it in pre-season. Maybe he could be given a go. But yeah, really, a bit of a poor effort, you have to say, by Saka. Like, we can't sit there criticising Havertz for an air shot and then not say that Saka's effort was poor as well, because
the spotlight's on Havertz all the time, and every moment it just feels like that every moment that something happens, it's not going right for Havertz. Something will happen and it'll be like, oh, he gave the ball away for the thing. Oh, he fluffed his lines there. He fluffed his lines in a previous game, didn't he? It was Fulham, and he had that chance that came across the box, and somehow he managed to put it wide instead of just putting it straight. It just seems that maybe things are just conspiring against him at the moment. He just needs to sort of take a step back, perhaps. But Arteta needs to put his arm around him and look after him, because he's getting swallowed up at the moment, I think, and a lot of fans, myself included, are beginning to get itchy feet with Kai Havertz.
Yeah, I know this sounds a bit weird, but I'm a big believer that when you're in the stadium as a fan, like when I heard him misplace that pass against Fulham and then the crowd just howled, I was a bit like, oh, I don't like hearing that. I know it's frustrating when a player gives the ball away, but I do still think you've got to. It goes against kind of what you're seeing with your eyes as a fan, but I think the fans have to really, like, when his name's read out before the game, we've got to get behind these guys. They're not going to perform if we howl and abuse them on social media and things like that. And I know it's frustrating because he's not delivering right now, but you never know. Players evolve and change, and I don't think we can rule it out. He might just take a bit longer. And unfortunately, and this is not a thing that people in 2023 have, in abundance, but just a bit of patience. It's really hard. But at the end of the day, we won the game. At the end of the day, we got the 3 points. He wasn't guilty of giving away the equaliser against Fulham. So I don't know. We still got 10 points out of 12 games. It's not a disgrace by any means. So the bigger picture is, yes, he's not firing, but then nor Saka really. A lot of our players aren't really, putting up any trees. So I think, for me, it's like we've got to try and show a bit more positivity and try and lift him up, because the Arsenal fans have this wonderful ability to do that. But similarly, in years gone by, we have proven, there's been some times where it has been quite toxic at the ground, and obviously we don't want to see that. We need to almost go with that blind sort of positivity each and every time.
We just got to, I mean, the faith that we've shown in Arteta, we've got to show that, I guess, again, that he's got the player that he wants. He's doing what he wants to do with that player. So, I hear you. It's difficult, Yeah. It's difficult. Anyway, back to the game. The disallowed goal.
Shall we get to the I can't believe we spent this long talking about the real meat and the potatoes of the game, which is
everything sort of happened in
glorious
the last 20 minutes. The most dramatic period of the game. The disallowed goal, Garnacho. What I'll say first of all is, although it was disallowed, credit where credit's due. Man United, that was fabulous. As crap as they are as a team, it was brilliant build-up play, and fair play to them. I thought that was a well-worked opening. I think when Højlund came into the game, I don't know if that's how you say his name, old Rasmus. When he came in, I thought he offered up a bit more physicality, and sort of Gabriel sort of felt like he was in a proper game at that point. RCL, I just think Gabriel had his number really. I think it was just a bit too easy. But yeah, he came in and ruffled some feathers, and yeah, fair play to United. I mean, on first viewing, everybody thought it was a goal, but I have never, ever, ever seen a defender defend like Gabriel did in that instant. The reactionary, the pose in which he sort of he played the offside like knowing it was going to be drawn.
Mm.
And he reacted honestly like a scolded cat. He was unbelievable. He stood up straight and sort of leaned over to sort of emphasize, preemptively knowing that the lines would be drawn. It was remarkable. I've never seen anything like it.
Actually, if you see the replay, what's amazing is this, and I actually, got no qualms in saying this, but when you actually watch the replay, you see Saliba and Gabriel. Gabriel looks across the line and sees Saliba, and he watches Saliba not trying to basically run back and try and tackle Garnacho. He sees Saliba stepping up. He looks across, and within a split second, he's decided to play offside with his mate. And that, to me, is exactly why you have partnerships. That's exactly why you have your centre halves the way they are. Because Gabriel, it's almost like an instinctive thing. He's not even thinking about it. He's watched. He looks across the line, seen what Saliba's doing, and instantaneously he's gone bang. I'm playing the offside trap here. I'm not going to try and, because Garnacho's rapid. To be fair,
there's no catching him after that. Yeah,
there's no catching him. And I'm just thinking about his scary face. It's just put me off my stride. But yeah, it's almost like they decide as a unit, as a central defensive unit, to not try and track him back or play the offside, and to play this offside trap. And to be honest, I don't, maybe I'm a complete freak of nature. When I watched the game in real time, the first thing I said was, that's offside. And when it went in, I felt kind of not relaxed. You didn't want to see the ball nestling in the net, but I thought, no, that's definitely offside. And then when the lines were drawn, it was given. And I cannot believe the interview Erik ten Hag gave after the game, almost insinuating that the lines weren't drawn on straight. When you see the still of the lines, they are drawn straight. But to almost like bring the referees into question around that, I thought was poor, deflecting from his team's toothless, impotent performance. But for me, when I saw it in real time, I thought doesn't look like a clear cut offside. But for me, I thought I saw Garnacho go first, to be honest. But I think if that had been allowed to stand, that would have been it.
It'd have been curtains for us if that was allowed.
Been a hammer blow. But then obviously we go up the other end, and our corners all game were absolutely bloody dreadful. Martinelli. We looked to have a few off the training ground, and Martinelli did like not a short corner, but kind of a medium corner where he'd pass it in sort of into the box and get it back, and that seemed to be quite effective. But the corners we were taking that kind of went straight into the box were not clearing the first man. Again, some of them are really deep, I noticed, and just not a lot of great quality. But then obviously Saka, hangs that one to the far post. Declan Rice controls it with his chin, and then swivels, and then elation.
Yeah,
I mean,
what I noticed about the corners is that we were piling a lot of men towards. It seemed like a tactic to go deep with the corners. There were a lot of bodies near the back post. And I thought, fair play. This is, and then you could see that in the goal that came, and again a little bit of shithousery from Gabriel in sort of hustling and bustling Johnny Evans to sort of leave Declan with that space to hammer the ball. And I mean, what can you say? It was just it's what Arsenal Man United games are about. It's that last minute drama, the explosion of emotion. It was just fabulous. And him of all players as well, I thought he had a fantastic game. He did really well, and for him to get his first goal for us against those lot, incredible. I just incredible scenes. I'm beaming now as we're talking about it. It's unbelievable.
I love the fact that his first goal came in a big game as well, because too often you get that kind of accusation leveled against some players like, they don't do it in the big games. But to do it in the 96th minute against Man United at home was massive, and the celebrations were incredible.
Yeah.
Watching him getting mobbed. The play, I saw Saka jumped into the crowd on this old boy sort of caught him. It was just like that perfect unity between fans
brilliant.
and players. It was a beautiful thing to see.
Beautiful moment. I mean, they were down and out then. That was it. Then you're thinking, we've nicked it 2-1, but then our boy Gabby puts the little chippy on top. And I mean, again, a brilliant breakaway goal. They were throwing bodies forward. I think Harry Maguire was playing up front at that point. Brilliant through ball from the cameo maestro that is Fabio Vieira. And I mean, I've got my feelings now that he should probably be starting in front of Havertz. He's probably done enough to warrant an opportunity. But great composure from Jesus. Sat down Dalot, and before Onana had a chance, the ball was in the back of the net. Brilliant. It's in the 111th minute. The drama is unbelievable. You can't write this stuff.
It's really weird. 'Cause last week I was saying our Arsenal the game's too kind of fraught with emotion, like what I would give for like a really regulation 2-0 victory. But I have to say, this game was kind of crap for a lot of it. But this, the buzz you get from winning like this is just, it stays with you, and it's just wonderful. I mean, I've got to admit, when I saw Jesus running through, I thought, okay, he's not known for his electric speed. I would say like someone like a Martinelli would be, but and Dalot, like the way he sat Dalot down. I mean, Dalot now is sliding on the M4 on his way to Bristol probably as we speak. But the way he sort of cut that back and then had that composure to open his body, to stroke it, calmly into the corner. And is it me, or has Gabriel Jesus been working out? Has he been going to the Eddie Nketiah Pure Gym or something like that? Just hench. He looks a bit more like physical. I felt he had a really good game as well, by the way. I think he sort of like he's. I don't want to say that he's like a player, well suited to coming off the bench, but whenever he comes on, he makes an absolute nuisance of himself.
Yeah. He just really put himself about. He was like a dog with a bone. It was like it was incredible. The composure he showed as well for the finish. That was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I think that's something that may have been missing a little bit in his game in past. And so it was lovely to see that he had that sort of ability to be confident in himself, to know that if he pulled it back, the defender's going to go, and he knows exactly. He knew it was a goal when he was there before the defender came sliding in. It's fabulous, brilliant. What a buzz! Brilliant.
And also the fact that they'd had a goal disallowed, and then we went up the other end. That kind of there's one thing winning in the last minute, but to get 2 goals and then them, having theirs chalked off was just really satisfying, to be honest with you. And I think on balance of play, I mean, I don't think 3-1 necessarily was a deserved scoreline, but I do think we were the better side
for sure.
And also these games, I mean, again, I don't like dropping points against any team, but when you come up against, I mean, I know Man United are sitting down in 11th at the moment on 6 points, but when you come up against these teams that that by the end of the season they'll be in and around those Champions League places, if you can at least beat them once, you're kind of then they're 6 pointers, these games for me. So I think when we come up against your Liverpools, your Cities, your Man Uniteds, I was going to say Chelsea, they're slip of the tongue, but your Brightons. I do think that you've got to be picked. These are big 6-pointer games, and now I'm not saying we go to Old Trafford and lose, but we've now got that in the bag. That 3 point save now. I feel like if you almost win one of those games and draw the other one, you're stealing points off these sort of top sides. So for me, I'm really big on these sort of top 6 side games. I think they really are 6 pointers.
Man United's away record under Erik ten Hag against the bigger teams is absolutely atrocious. So had we dropped points, I would have been bitterly disappointed, because they on the road against as I say, the sort of teams like us and Liverpool and City, and they get absolutely battered. You think back to last season, what was it, 7-0 at Anfield, and then they got trounced at City as well. They got trounced at Spurs 2 weeks ago. They are not the force they once were in English football. So I think for us, yes, that 6 points, but we had to get the points on the board for this game, because I don't think they're a team that are going to necessarily be challenging with us based on the first 4 games. The performances of Man United have been really wonky. They managed to get that. They managed to get that pullback. They got the game against Forest, but they look really shoddy. I think they're in for a tough season along with Chelsea, to be honest with you.
I still think they've got enough kind of quality players in their squad that they should still be in and around it over the course of a season. But obviously they've got a few injuries at the moment. But what was really shocking for me is, I don't know whether it was just a decision was taken to to play like this because of for this game only. But I do look at, I was shocked at just how bad Man United were in this game, but how they just their main tactic was try and get the ball up to Rashford on the counter attack, and just they it's interesting because Man United have always been a team that sort of pride themselves on getting on the front foot, being aggressive, taking the game by the scruff, like as we would be in these kind of games, to be fair as well. But that's what's made this fixture so great. But the first half particularly was just such a tepid sort of affair, really. So it was quite shocking. Obviously, Man United are a weird side because they've got a great record at home, but they can't win for toffee when I don't think they've won against a top 6 team away from home since Ten Hag has been there.
Yeah.
And they've got absolutely abysmal record away, but then they're super good at home. So a bit of a strange one.
Chalk and cheese, isn't it, for them?
Yeah. But we don't need to talk about them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's not about them.
Where do you think this leaves us then?
That's exactly what I was going to start with. Where do we stand after this? 4 points in, 4 games in, 10 points on the board, 2 behind City. What are we thinking? What do I think? I think that the points on the board are the most important thing right now. Yes, we're 2 points behind City, and yes, that's disappointing. I think I'm glad. In some ways, I'm glad the international break. I'm not a big fan of international football. I think it's a bit, it zaps the life out of you unless it's a World Cup or something. It's a bit like qualifiers. I mean, who really cares? Yeah, but I like the fact that we've got this, because I think it gives the coaching staff a bit of an opportunity to sort of work on some stuff and bring some stuff together, because I think there is a lot. We've not looked very fluid over the 4 games that we've played. We've looked good in patches. Again, high on emotion as well. And I don't want us to be playing the season based on emotion. I want us to be a bit more, I hate to say this, but I want us to be a bit robotic with some of these games and just like churn out 3-0s and just finish teams off. And, you think back to like how City entered the season with their emphatic win at Burn, just like 3-0, bosh, done. No questions, it's done. We've won. I want a bit of that about us. I want us to just turn up and just roll teams over and not have to think about it too much and get too embroiled in on pitch battles. I just want it to be clean cut. And I think that we need to trust ourselves a bit more in what we're doing. And just take opportunities, have a strike at goal. It's not gonna. What's the worst that's gonna happen? Just be sure of ourselves. I think Arteta needs to iron out what his tactics are. What his best starting 11 is, what he's going to do with the team. I mean, the big question is obviously still Havertz and what's going to happen there. I hope he sticks with the back 4 now going forward. It's lovely to see Gabriel back. And as we said in previous podcasts, only I think a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned how partnerships were the foundation of what we did last season. The White and Saka partnership, Saka and Ødegaard, and then Gabriel and Saliba. And you could see those relationships in the game that we just had against United. They came came to the fore. So I want us to sort of be settled in what we're doing, and just finish teams off. Don't give them the opportunity, especially when we're on the front foot. Just put it to bed.
I agree. I think there's sort of times in games where we're really on the front foot and we're not making the most of the opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not even. It's one thing missing chances, but I feel like we're not kind of creating enough like really super clear cut chances. Sure. So I think we've got to sort of smell that in game when the opposition are backpedaling basically, and where we think we've got that sort of time. Time to really strike. I mean, I would still say that 10 points out of 12 is good. I think if we drop points against Man United, you could probably say it was a bit of a middling start. People say, "Oh, don't worry, it's only the first few games," but to draw 2-2 against 10-man Fulham is very poor. And that will be one of those. Like every year, there are 2 or 3 games we look back and go, if only we'd done this. Like, if only we'd done that. Like last year, we had was it Southampton and. Brighton and a few others.
Southampton, the Liverpool game, the West Ham game. For me, it was those 3 games that killed us off.
Yeah, particularly West Ham is a poor West Ham. They had one eye on Europe. Like Liverpool at Anfield in and of itself is not necessarily a bad result, per se. Although obviously when you're going 2-0 up, and that to me, basically, I'm really glad we beat Man United for obvious reasons, but also because I think that almost then nullifies a bit the drop points against Fulham. But what sort of kills me is that, by all accounts, Man City were not at their fluent best. Haaland barely touched the ball, and he's still got a hat trick, and they won 5-1. So it's quite deflating.
I know it's a bit soul destroying, isn't it? What normally happens with City is they get off to a slow start, but it's like they've rolled out of bed and they've just smashed some teams and gone, oh, there we are. Then we put 12 points on the board. And now it's like the international break. And it's just relentless. And the reality of the situation is that City on paper are meant to be weaker than they were last season. You think of the players that they're without at the moment. Gundogan's gone. De Bruyne is out for, who knows how long. They say 3-4 months, but it could be longer.
Mm-hmm.
So on paper, this should be worse, but they seem to just. It's just so infuriating. It really is.
I know, and they've recruited quite late on in the window as well. Yeah. I mean, they bought some really good players from what I can see. I mean, Doku looks like a really, really good player, 2-footed, can play on either flank.
Yeah.
But to get these players late in the window and then combining that with the fact De Bruyne is out, you think, maybe going to take some time to bed in. And I quote the Guardian here, but in their match report, the City game, saying this was hard. This fourth win of the season was hardly the champions at their smoothest, and that normally then would suggest like a 2-1 win
or a scraping 1-0. Yeah, but 5-1.
5-1. It's just, oh my God, please.
I was expecting big things from I wouldn't say big things, but I was expecting, Fulham gave us a right old game last week, and they looked quite solid. Yeah. Contrary to what I thought beforehand, but and then City have just gone, yeah, all right, 5-1. There you go. What now? Yeah. So overall, I'd give our start maybe a 7 out of 10. I'd say maybe 7.5. Maybe.
I think that's fair.
I think we got. And
what was your thoughts on the window closing? I mean, obviously the Turkish window and the Saudi window, please someone take Nicola Pepe, is still open. But what are your thoughts there?
Well, on the Pepe thing, I've read that rumours have it that he's back in for the Besiktas medical today.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe there's some stuff floating around on social that we can have a look at. Maybe that, maybe he gets out the door. Maybe there's a nominal fee as well, apparently. So better than nothing, I guess. But thoughts on the window? Obviously, incomings. Very happy with the incomings. Disappointed, obviously, that Timber's out injured. It does feel like we've only brought in 2 players now, given that Timber's going to be out for, I don't know, 6 to 8 months. He's not going to be back till February, March at the earliest, I'd say. But outgoings, what do I think? Balogun, I'm pleased that he went abroad. I know we probably could have got more money if we sold him to somebody in the Premier League, but let's be honest, nobody wants to see him score against us, you know, in the colours of Chelsea or, I don't know, Tottenham. I'm glad he's gone abroad. I'm a little bit disappointed we haven't managed to shift people for fees and that it looks like loans with options are the sort of flavour of the day for our outgoings. You know, there's the Tierney one. Who else has gone now? I can't. Tierney's gone. My mind's gone blank. Who else have we sent out on loan?
Lokonga's gone on loan.
Lokonga.
We had the Nuno Tavares.
Tavares has gone out on loan.
He's on loan. Marquinhos.
But Marquinhos not fine with that because we're not trying to sell him.
Yeah, I mean, looking at departures, we made I think it was 67 million euros of money in, and that's on about sort of 10 players going out. To be honest, which is poor. And in my view, still, I mean, it's 67.
Well, I mean, the bulk of those would be Xhaka and Balogun, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I even heard today that Rob Holding actually only went for 1.2 million euros or £1 million plus. No, apparently it's 1 million plus about 2.5 in add-ons. So it's actually.
Might as well have kept him.
I know. I don't know if we were doing him a bit of a favour because maybe we just said, look, you've given 7 years of your career to the club, but you know, Arsenal just still not. You know, could that have, people say, oh, it's not my money, but you know, could that have impacted our ability to bring in? I still think on the window, you know, we signed 4 players. One of them's a goalkeeper who hasn't played any time. One of them's injured for pretty much the whole season. One of them's not playing very well, and one of them is. So really, we've not strengthened our starting 11 enough, in my view. Yeah, that's just my overall view. I feel like we could have probably done
maybe January
piece of business. I feel like every window we always seem like we just leave us as one signing too short. It grates away at me. I just think could we have not got like a defender in on loan or
yeah, a loan signing would have been good, especially after the Timber thing. You know, I know there were rumours of maybe the Southampton fullback. What was it, Carl Walker-Peters? You know, just a body, somebody that could have offered something to give. You know, to cover somebody, because if you think about it now, we've only really got Zinchenko that can play. I know that we can play Kivior sort of there, but Kivior doesn't strike me as a left back. You know,
yeah.
So, you know, we're a bit light, if anything, I think. So, you have to be careful. And Zinchenko hasn't got the best track record when it comes to injuries, so we're going to have to be a bit careful.
Yeah, I don't feel like we obviously got very unlucky with Timber, but the one positive, at least that injury happened while the window was still open, and I would have liked us to have. Again, I don't want Arsenal spending stupid money on rubbish, and then you know players that've got big salaries that we can't shift if it doesn't work out, like they do up the road at Chelsea. But I still feel that we left ourselves a little bit short. Maybe one in the attacking area, and it's so weird now. I'm thinking maybe one in defence, one in midfield. Because obviously Thomas Partey again, but I think this has got to be the next summer. Has got to be the summer where we get some of these injury-prone players out the door, because it's one thing, you know, the best ability is availability, and you know the problem is with people like Jesus at times, Zinchenko, Partey, Tomiyasu, these kind of players. They're excellent players to have around, but if they're going to break down every couple of months, then it just does not help us at all. I think if Jesus has a injury-free season now and builds on this, I think we can really do something. I really believe that, but you know, but you're right. If Zinchenko breaks down again, then we could be. I think Zinchenko's he's one of the most sort of enjoyable players I think I've seen pull on an Arsenal shirt. The way he plays, his technical level, you know, the adventurous way in which his swashbuckling sort of style that he has. You know, I think he's brilliant. But you sort of can't enjoy him as much when you know that I might just get a fleeting look at him, you know, like a cameo.
Yes, indeed. So predictions. Where do we stand? I mean, I think we got it wrong. I think we both said Nketiah and we were going to get a goal.
Yeah, we both said Nketiah to score. We've had 3 weeks of predictions now. We screwed up each. on all 3 occasions. So we're having an
I went to say
yeah,
Arsenal.
we're having a shocker. Although obviously, mind won't be having a shocker at the end of the season. They won't mind it, pun intended. But so we're not having a great run. But so let's go again. What's your prediction for Everton away after the international break?
I know we spoke about it briefly before we came on here. I think somebody called Gabriel will score.
Like to enlighten me on who?
Oh, it'll be one of 2. I think maybe.
Ooh.
I think Gabriel Martinelli or Gabriel Jesus will get a goal.
Okay.
Because
I like that.
I think one of those 2 will get a goal, because I do think that the break now that's come up might do Gabriel Jesus a bit of good. Hope he doesn't play for Brazil too much. But yeah, I think we could see him, banging at the door perhaps and getting a goal maybe, or Martinelli. That's my prediction. But I do think we'll beat Everton. I mean, if we've got aspirations of challenging City, we've got to be putting this Everton team away next. So yeah, I think we'll win that. So that's mine. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go. This just feels really obvious, because the minute I talk about it, it might not happen. But we've generally been pretty solid away from home defensively. So I'm going to say that we'll keep a clean sheet and we'll come away with the 3 points. And in fact, don't get me wrong, I loved this game. Absolutely, the buzz. I'm still on cloud 9 now, but I would love just a really gritty, controlled, 2-0 victory or something like that. Just something you go, yeah, Arsenal are going away. They're managing the game. We just seem a little bit more solid at home. I think we just sort of play a bit more of a balanced game, and I don't really see Everton posing a lot of threat up front. My main worry actually is if the physicality of their midfield. That's why I do kind of wonder if Fabio Vieira is not the right guy for this. To come up against Garner, Gay, and then Decore and Anna in midfield, 3 powerhouse midfielders up against Fabio Vieira. It'd be interesting if he does come in. I can't see it happening. I can see him still sticking with Havertz, if I'm honest. But be interesting to see. I mean, I think we owe them from last season big time, and
they are a bit of a bogey team, aren't they? I just don't like playing Everton away. They're just annoying, and it'll be like, because they picked up 1 point or something now in their first opening 4 games, and now all of a sudden they're going to play us. It'll be sod's law that they'll turn up against us.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But again, it's one of those games last season. We look back at where we slipped up last season. I mean, they had the new manager bounce. I think that was Sean Dyche's first game in charge. It was against us, and it was such a limp sort of surrender in that game, really. And we can't be dropping points against teams like that. We really can't. The team's got 1 goal. They've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin can't stay fit. They've got rid of Anthony Gordon. I mean, their midfield is physically strong. Whether it's got the craft to kind of unlock, to unlock a defence, I'm not sure. But we've got to be looking at a clean sheet. I mean, I can see maybe conceding to a set piece or something like that, but we shouldn't really be gifting up goals in open play. I hope Gabriel plays that game. I assume he will. And, he's good at set pieces, and just let's get back to being solid. I think that's my main thing I'm looking at. My heart cannot take the kind of stuff we saw on Sunday, as lovely as it is. It can't happen every game. I think.
Against Everton,
I don't think I'll last the season.
You don't want that against Everton. You want to just go up there, get your points, and come home. That's it. Yeah,
exactly.
Cool.
Right. I think that might be us for the week.
Yeah, might wrap us up. 2 weeks time, I think, isn't it? It's been shifted now to a Sunday as well, I think, the Everton game.
Yeah, it has. Yes, we've got a couple of weeks take stock. I think it's been a decent start to the season, but yeah, let's look forward to picking this up against Everton. And thanks everyone for joining us. We're going to take our own international break now and watch loads of really sterile football, probably with Harry Maguire involved somewhere. We'll see you. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.